Why don't we get started? There is a recording here for the people that did submit questions that haven't joined us yet. Well, the first one, there's two focuses of the questions. One's on accessibility, so we're going to go through a couple bits and pieces, give you kind of a broader education on that, show you what's available. The specific question, actually, I'll get that in a second. The second of questions was around filtering and different ways that you could exclude and include items from various filters. So it was a nuanced question from one of our clients that has a whole bunch of blogs. And they wanted to bring up related blogs. After you're done reading it, you get to the bottom, and then there's a list of related blogs. They wanted a way to easier way to manage what shows up there. So we'll go through how to think about it in different ways that do it. But starting back on accessibility, the question was, is there a dashboard inside of Titan that shows accessibility challenges with pages or individual blocks? And yes, there is. As many of you know, within the freeform block itself, there's an accessibility checker widget that you can click on, and it will do an analysis for, I think, about 70 different accessibility challenges that might exist inside of that single freeform block on an individual page. And it will find missing image tags, missing link text, missing image descriptions, missing or H1s that are out of order, titles that are missing, a lot of the easier type challenges that would affect accessibility. And so that is available inside of Titan. But is there a general dashboard that does a deep analysis of everything that might be wrong with a page or a section of the site? We do not have that. We could build one in there, but we said to ourselves, you know what? There's entire corporations that dedicate themselves to doing this for free. One, which I'm going to show you here in a second, that's built into the Titan browser. So if the goal of the question was, help me find the accessibility problems on my page that I can fix them, Titan will help you one freeform block at a time with easy stuff. But in fairness, that's about 25%. I don't know if Sydney was in the meeting, she'd give me a percentage, but it's a minority of what you're going to have to deal with for dealing with accessibility. Accessibility is a larger, more comprehensive approach to how you think about a page, and many things is the whole overall page structure that get into the templates. A lot of it has to do with the content that you're putting in individually and other structural things. So let me share my screen here real quick. Screen. And I'm going to pop on over to here. And Milwaukee County was the one that asked the question. So I went to I just picked a random page on Milwaukee County. It's actually a fairly big one, looking for accessibility problems. And if you are using the Chrome browser, which I am right now, and you hit Shift F12 or the F12 on your, whatever your keyboard is, I have to hit Function F12 on my, but this is built into the Chrome browser, and depending upon what kind of keyboard you have, you can pop this up anywhere you're using it. And this is called the Lighthouse system. So typically when you first get in here, you're going to see this view. You're going to see the elements view or the console view, which is all this technical developer type stuff. If you go and click on this little chevrons over here with more tabs, you can see and scroll down and see all the other things that are available in the developer tools. And one of the developer tools is called Lighthouse. Click on Lighthouse, and this is a third-party plugin that Chrome has included in the browser for your use. And you can say analyze the page, and it will look at, I had it preset to desktop and navigation type items. And at this point in time, it's going to look for performance issues, accessibility issues, SEO issues, and a couple other things. And so you can see it flashing over there as it's going through here. It's almost done. Again, this is a big page. Yeah. Best practices and suggestions. So overall, a particular page in Milwaukee County gets a score of 85. That's good. That's in the top percentile of a well-done page. There's almost no page out there that's perfect. The only perfect pages I've ever seen are usually bare naked. They have almost nothing on them, and they come up perfectly. They don't do anything interesting whatsoever, but they score perfect scores. As soon as you try to do anything interesting with your page, like put an image on it, then you start getting dinged because it's going to find something it doesn't like. So performance is
and
fine.
I'll just say there's ways to cheat, right? There's always going to be a way to to get that performance score to a notch higher or best practice a notch higher, but you didn't really make any beneficial change to the content. That's the other side of that. But yeah.
Yeah. So we take these performance scores with a grain of salt. They're indicative. They give you factors to consider, and then you have to use human judgment inside there. Same thing is true with accessibility. So if I either scroll down or just click on the accessibility button over here, it's going to scroll me down the page. So now it is going and it's going to start finding things that it thinks are with accessibility on this one page. So one page at a time, which is kind of how you're going to have to deal with accessibility. You can do some stuff at the template level, but many things are going to have to be done one page at a time. It says the background colors do not have sufficient contrast. Well, it's actually kind of nice because it goes and it highlights the sections of the page where you can see you have some content over here, and it's showing what it looks like. I can pop a bigger thing, and it says this content down in the bottom with the color of the font inside there compared to the background is insufficient, and it's failing. It's not good. It shows you actually the HTML element inside the page. I don't think it will actually click you to it, so you're going to have to go in and find where that is on the page. But hopefully, if you are in charge of these pages, you have some clue as to where these things are on the page. Again, this is a larger page. So there. So it's showing you that there's a background contrast. The links do not have a discernible name. Again, it shows you a set of links. Now, these happen to be in the footer. Took a peek ahead of time over here. These are built, I believe, with a font, awesome font, etc. I'm not quite sure how they built these. I don't know that it's necessarily an image, but it's seeing these as images, and it's saying that they don't have alt text to indicate what they are, which is going to be an accessibility problem. So now to fix this, John, how would you get in there and fix this in theory? Or what are some of we're not quite sure how this page is built.
Right. I mean, in some cases, we've seen pages like this built, or we build pages like this using freeform content. I think we call them mega footers, and use some kind of static content control or page share or something to get them on every page. Or, and that's the other thing, it could be something that was built into layout. Like if it was, there's a lot of different ways to implement. It could have been a nav type style. There's a lot of ways to do it, but ultimately then you'd have to either get into some templated code or look at the freeform content that's shared across a whole bunch of pages or something.
So two things: finding the problems, two, fixing them. So, and then you have to decide how important each one of these things are. There's going to be some stuff that's more accessible to, more important to accessibility. Some things are less important. So there's a lot of human judgment that's involved in this. So on this particular case, I think some of our clients hire third-party auditors. They come in and they make a big, long list of things that could be improved with accessibility on a page. Again, you're gonna always be able to find something. And then the idea is then be able to prioritize in your judgment which things need more attention, which are easier to do or not. So, but Lighthouse is built in to the Chrome browser, and one thing at a time, it will tell you the touch targets do not have sufficient size or spacing. This happens to also be right down here on the bottom. Legislative calendar, RFPs, calendars, and things. The issue is that if this was on a mobile device and you were using your finger to click on the legislative calendar, there's not enough space padding between this link and the next link, and so you're going to miss. That's an accessibility problem. It's also probably a usability problem. So solution, you got to go and modify the the cascading style sheet, the CSS, on this page to add more padding underneath these specific links. So it's going to be a little bit more technical type solution. But as you can see, that's a judgment. The judgment is these are too close together. Is it failing? No. But in their opinion, could this be better? Sure. And there's lots and lots of things when you do an accessibility audit that are going to be like that. It's not a complete failure of something. So header elements are not sequentially ordered, so on and so forth. And there's other items you can manually check. So it gives you a big list over here of things to check. So without belaboring it too much, the challenge with accessibility is going to be getting educated. So how do we get educated? I'm glad you asked. We have built a whole bunch of blogs I recommend as a head start. So if you go and you go in here to, we had a shortcut link. Oops, somebody sent it to me and oh, there it is. nwsdigital.me/accessibility blogs. And if you click that link, this is a bit.ly link. So nwsdigital.me accessibility blogs. There's a whole bunch of, click over here. Oops. It's missing the, there we go. HTTPS. It should have
throw it right in your browser, right in your address bar.
Did I do it wrong in the address bar? I did.
Yeah.
There it is. Let's do this again. HTTPS. Thank you. All right. Whew. So here, the same blogs coming up, the topic accessibility. So if you get to our blogs and you didn't find the right click, you just go to topics accessibility. And you can see a whole bunch of stuff that we've written on a pretty regular basis about accessibility. There's some things I don't want to belabor this tool all day here, but there's like accessibility overlays that purport to fix accessibility automatically, and they're going to be found wanting. So many technical challenges with what they're doing, not the least of which is slowing a page down, but putting a Band-Aid on top of them and thinking that it's going to bolt onto your website and automatically fix all your accessibility problems. It's going to be able to address some of the stuff, but certainly not all of it. Any other comments on those, Jon?
No, the thing I think that is so critical for people to keep in mind is there's not like an easy button, right? There's so much that goes into choices about what to change. You know, I think of like some images, right? Some images, oh, well, your image doesn't have alt text. Well, this is not really an image that's anything more than decorative, you know, on my site. It's not like communicating something about nav. It's this. So you have to make that aware choice about whether or not it's applicable to include, you know, alt text on that kind of image. And then when you are putting alt text on, well, what are you saying? You know, are you saying something about that image that helps describe it for a screen reader? Or is it, or you have to make a choice on so many levels about injecting this extra content for accessibility. So don't ever make the assumption that it's just well, I can pay somebody to do this and it'll be automagical and cheap and yada yada. It's more involved. And like Pat said, you got to take some time and educate yourself and be aware.
Yeah, big topic. Any particular questions on accessibility? So the original question was, is there some tool built into Titan that could tell me what's wrong accessibility on a page? The answer is yes. Is there a dashboard that tells me everything on the whole page? No. Do we have any intention to build? No, we have no intention to build anything like that because there are lots and lots and lots of topics out there, tools that entire ecosystems are spent doing this. And there is so much subjective nature to what to fix or what not to fix. Right. So before we move on, any questions on accessibility? And did we answer the question?
Yeah, and I guess since I'm the one that asked the question, just to give a little bit of context, is we do have an accessibility project going on with you guys in Sydney, and we've been doing a lot of work and going back and forth. And what we're concerned about is, okay, we're going to fix what we know about now, but how do we keep that up to date? Like, we're going to go through, we're going to fix our really long list now. We're going to get to a point in which hopefully we'll meet the new law that's coming in 2026. But how do we be proactive and keep it up to date instead of, a year from now generating another long list and doing the same exercise? So that's what I was kind of hoping for, is if we had a way within Titan to say, these are your pages that have been identified as potentially having an accessibility list, then we could go through that instead of having to manage that in a separate tool. But it sounds like we're looking at a separate tool to get that list, because I just don't know if we have to do it page by page, how much we'll stay up to date on that.
I think you're exactly right. Yes. So, and I appreciate the hope and the searching Don Quixote style for something that would just tell me if something broke. Let me know. I'll give you a warning or heads up, etc. Nothing exists like that inside of Titan. And even if it was, it would be replicating what a third-party tool is going to do, which is routinely going back and re-auditing, and then telling you if anything changed. So we would, if we were to build such a tool, it would not do anything different than what the third-party tool is going to do anyways, which is somebody's going to have to manually do it, pay attention to it, check to see what's changed.
And frankly, it'll be the version of our tests that are in your version of Titan, right? So let's say we figure a way out, or it makes sense, and we do it for 7.7. Well, when a year later, when all the tests change or the laws change and things but you haven't upgraded since that, well, you're kind of stuck unless you do the upgrade, right? But these third-party tools, they're constantly upgrading and making enhancements and changes, and it's like, oh, just give me your URL and we'll apply our latest and greatest set of tests. Well, there's some upside to that as far as that. But, the other side of it is, kind of back to the education point. If you stay familiar and aware of what's necessary as an author, then that's a part of your process that you can develop for creating and building out new content. So as you're writing new blogs or injecting new content into your sites, then you can take into account that latest and greatest knowledge and awareness that you have as you build that out and be proactive as you're originating content, right? And then, then it's necessarily, going to be the case, well, I better backtrack and double check these other, 100 pages that I worked on in the past and make sure they're up to the latest and greatest patterns and practices and all the same. So it's a never-ending challenge in a sense, but at the same time, so is managing any part of a website, right?
Yeah.
We got to keep that content fresh and up to date, and so there's always going to be a process of going back.
We have, as you know, Jennifer, we've been working with Titan. Every version we come out, we tweak our Reflex templates framework further with more and more and more accessibility type stuff. So as we learn of other things or have the time, opportunity to incorporate additional accessibility, we refresh our templates and try to push that out to clients when they get an upgrade. So people that are on our total care program will have the benefit of that if they've upgraded their design to the Reflex framework.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and that's I think what we're working on with you guys now too to upgrade our old page layouts to the latest and greatest.
Yeah, and some of the stuff automatically, you're going to get fixes that if you get frequently asked questions block, that the new version of it is more accessible than the old one. All right.
So just one more follow-up question, if I may. You mentioned Lighthouse for the page by page go through. Do you guys have a recommended tool for generating that long list or no?
So highlighted on my screen right now, web accessibility tools you can use.
Perfect.
Sydney wrote an article a couple years ago about some of the tools that are out there. She explains a little bit about testing, and then she went through, here's the website evaluation list, and she likes this one, Wave. I think there's some for pay tools, subscription. They're not very much. And they will do a better job of building more comprehensive work. The free tools are going to get you so much. Color contrast tools are nice. Those are a whole nother dimension of what you have to check with accessibilities. Make sure you got the contrast right on a page. And then she mentions Lighthouse and some of the Axe developer tools is another one that we like. I think this one has a subscription version of it that you can pay for, the more enhanced, and you might look into those. So I'd encourage you to take a look at these blog articles over here and see what Sydney's recommending. And if you need to, send her a note, and she'd be happy to give you the pros and cons, additional questions you might have.
Oh, that's perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet. All right, second question. I'm going to stop sharing here as goes to filters. We have another client who is using published blogs. And John, why don't you start sharing, and I'll narrate as you're bringing up the screen here.
Yep.
So it's down in the Chicago area, and I don't know are they even on here? I'm looking on the list. I don't think she joined us, but she submitted a really good question. So we'll go through this. We'll go through this in kind of a summary format since the client is not on at the moment. So the question was, I have a blog. I want after you're done reading that blog, down on the bottom of it, I want to bring up related blogs. And if you look at the Temco list over here under blogs, they have about 100 blog articles they've written. And so after you're done reading one, they want to bring up the related ones. And her concern was, all right, I want to find a way to quickly filter and find related blogs so it automatically makes this recommendation. So right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can manually pick them. But if she writes a new blog, a manual picking process of finding them in the filter over here to manually insert these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 related blogs in there, it's tedious, especially if you're trying to cross-reference all of them. Nobody's got time for that. Right. And so her issue was when I click on blog over here, first of all, it selects all of the subblogs, and I got to go and unclick it. I got to unclick one of the times she says, there's got to be an easier way. And I said, there is. So don't click on blog to begin with. Yeah. Don't click it. So this is the easy answer. And instead leave it blank, open it up and go down and find the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you want to have included manually. So that's solution number one. So that was the very easy answer. But the next question had to do a little bit more nuancy, which was once I'm in here and I'm creating a filter, so I'm creating an automatic filter, is there a way to exclude stuff? And we said, all right, you're thinking about it backwards. And I'm going to pass it over to Jon here, explain how she was thinking about it and how we're going to reverse the thinking to how to find related stuff.
Right. And if you've used tagging in Titan, I think this idea will kind of hit home and be familiar. I'm going to use a few of their specific tags, and you can see on the screen they have quite a few options to them. The ways that they've categorized and classified this content, all very helpful for filtering. But in the particular case, it's like, well, I've got essentially three types of blog. One's a case study, and one's a story, and one's, maybe some technical information, right? I just want to exclude the stories. Like, okay, well, instead of thinking of it in terms of excluding, let's think of it in terms of including. So of the three, you want everything except the one. Well, let's just add the two, right? So in that scenario, you would say, well, it was resource type was the filter, and this is a server filter. So this is all pre-filtering, right? We want to limit this list server side. We're not going to make a user choose what to see. I'm picking for them things that are related. So I'm going to say server side filter to, and as you can see here, they've got actually several types of blog content, from the resource type perspective. But in their example, give me just case studies and technical data. And by setting up the server side filter, so it says just these two types, just these two tags are the ones I'm interested in presenting in my list, this will give the first stage of filtering that they're looking for. They could have said, rather than exclude based on one thing, let's narrow down to include the two types of thing that I want.
So,
now, something that...
So recap real quick. So we're on a blog, and on the bottom of the blog, we want to bring up related articles. And I only want to look, of all the stuff over there, I only look at things that are tagged with a case study or technical data. Or actually, we're pulling stuff out of the resource library in this case, right?
Right. Or in this case, it's actually more of the blogs, right? We're given more related blogs.
Right. So only case studies and technical data blogs. Got it.
Right. Exactly. Now, I want to share a little nuance in case this wasn't familiar to some of you. It's a Boolean logic fun thing, right? It's like, only I think that's fun. But we always used to say back in the day, and I haven't used this phrase in a while, but within a tag, it's or, across tags, it's and, which is just to say, if I'm a user checking boxes saying, hey, I want this or this or this from the resource type tag, that's the or logic. It's like, give me all of the things that have any of these selections. Well, Titan will let you switch that to an and within a tag. So in a sense, if I was, right now it's configured for the or, which we use more natural language. We say, well, if any of the selected attributes are on an item, return it. But we could change it and say, well, no, it's got to have all of the selected attributes in order to be a match and then be returned. So this is the switch between or and within a tag. So if I said all selected attributes in this situation, it would only return items if they had both case study and technical data.
As the tags assigned.
As tags on that content, right? But that's not what they were asking in their question. They were like, no, I would like anything that's a case study or anything that's technical data. So we want to stay with the any selected attributes configuration here to provide that aspect. But there's actually one more bit. So that's one way of filtering the content server side. They actually had an additional one, which was the type of product it talked about. So it would be, I think, a product type. So in the other aspect for them is they wanted to restrict the related articles that we magically give to the user to the ones about a specific type of heater called a band heater. So in so doing, now they've essentially, they've set up a filter that's based on two tags, two classifications is what we call them. So like I said in my quick little phrase, it's typically or within a tag, and it's and tags. So now we've got the resource type, which was case studies or technical data. And for the item to return, it has to also have product type equal band heater. So by doing a complex set of tag selections, you can easily accomplish something from an inclusionary perspective versus an exclusionary perspective. Did I cover that right, Pat?
I think so. It's a very nuanced sort of thing, but I want to first say it kind of does show the power of what you can do to configure a filter block. And we've been working on this for 10 years. So every nuance way if somebody wants to filter something, including the request that came in from Temco, we can accomplish that. We haven't found anything we can't do inside of the filters. So sometimes it's thinking about it backwards from perhaps what you're asking. She wanted, in fairness, an easy way to just exclude stuff and then pull everything else in there. And we're saying, no, you got to think about it. You got to think about it the other way. Right. So powerful filter, the ability to flip the tags between oring or anding, as you said, the Boolean logic, which is kind of cool. And then the ability to go very nuanced. So now I'm reading a blog and I get to the bottom of it. This blog was all about band heaters. Show me other case studies about band heaters, sorted in alphabetical order or sorted by newest first. So he can change the sort order up on, and actually newest first, there it is. Display only 5 items. And now we should be able to pull up related blogs automatically, including the ones that are new. So if she pulls a new case study about band heaters with the newest first, that one's going to pop right up to the top of the list. You don't have to do anything. No maintenance required. This blog will automatically update. So that's a pretty good feature.
Yep. Another fun little nuance to configuring the filter block and data list block, if it's being used in this scenario, is, well, if these are related, then theoretically the one I'm reading right now would land in that collection, right? And I don't want to show a link to the page I'm currently on. That would be kind of silly, right? I don't want it to take up one of those 5 spots. Let's eliminate that one. Do I have to go pick it manually? Well, that would be, you can, but there's actually an easier exclusion option, which if you go here to advanced options and set excludes, this first checkbox says exclude contained page. So essentially you can say, if they're on a page, it's going to not show up in this filter block. So it would be an easy way to exclude the current page from the related list, I guess is the easy way to say it. I think that's fairly clear and obvious. But rather than here, it looks, and I'm not sure which page I landed. They found the excluded and excluded the exact page they wanted to, but they wouldn't have had to. They could have done this more generically and said, well, just exclude any contained page, and that way we'll always get a unique set of related items.
Perfect. Yeah. So I think that was it. You had one other thing you said you wanted to show off. I can't remember what it was inside of here.
So Temco happens to have recently upgraded to our latest and greatest version, which is 7.4.13. And I wanted to point out, we just recently added a new set of configuration options related to keyword filtering. So in the filter block and the data list block, the ability to type text into a text input and have it reduce the list to items that match keywords that are typed in. We always used to, essentially, it was a hard-coded way of deciding how to process those words. And it was going to always return, exact matches of a term, as long as all of the words in the phrase they entered were, in a keywords field or in specific fields like the title or the meta tag description. Well, we wanted to give a little bit more flexibility because in Temco's case, this came up. There were certain times that the keyword filter might be, needing to take into account some other things. And so we've added some new options to keyword filters throughout Titan. That would be filter block has keyword filtering. List has keyword filtering. Search has a lot of different ways that you can configure of lists. Some of them come from search indexes, like through DT search, but others are just based on the metadata searching that you can do, like in a filter block or a data list. And we call those filter segment and data segment. Well, both of those options also have been updated to include this new configuration. And so in the options section for the keyword filter, you can say, well, make sure to include inflected forms of terms that are entered by the user. And that just means they have different endings, right? You know, if like fish might return items that are fishing, fishes, fished, fished, like past tense. So all those different endings that you can add in onto English words that are essentially the same word, just, you know, different inflectional forms. We can make sure that we search and find items based on the inflected form. And then the other option that is configurable is how we do string matching. Well, if you wanted to always match the entire phrase, well, then you would leave it as the default, which is must match all words. But maybe there's a scenario where you want to give more results and more options to a user who's searching and filtering through content. And so you can choose match any words instead. And match any words is basically going to take whatever multi-word phrase they enter, split it up on the spaces, and then do separate, you know, searches against each word individually. So that way you can, you know, get more results back. They might be a little less relevant depending on the scenario, but if that's your goal, is to give more options rather than fewer, then that might be a nice way to approach it. And then you can, but the key being, it's nice to have the option because maybe you don't always want to do an entire word match for a keyword filter. So that I wanted to take time and show that also. And there's good help text to give some context to users that are setting up these filters to know exactly how they work.
So John, I'll open up. I just sent in the chat to you the Temco blog. If you click that link and share it real quick.
Oh, I got to find the chat here. Copy that link and I will go right here.
So an example of the any all, if you type in the word plastic into keywords, if you accept all their cookies down there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, if you type the word plastic, but if you type in the word plastic space show, now it's going to narrow it down to, why are we not on, are you on the blog? Oh, you're on the, so you want to search. Click on Temco blog. It's under About Us. I'm sorry, I took you to the wrong page. There it is. Yeah, blog. Now do plastic.
Oh, down here.
Yeah, in the blog itself. There you go. Plastic. And that brings up a whole bunch of results. Now do plastic show. Yeah. You can see it's one of the first ones on their space show. And now that's, both words have to match in order to bring up the individual. And that's a case where they wanted all versus any.
Correct. And I'll point out the inflected forms. You searched for plastic singular.
Yeah.
But the title that's getting the hit is plastics plural. And so by virtue of having the inflected forms enabled, it was able to pick that up.
Right. There we go. Any questions on some of the finer nuances of anding and oring inside of filter blocks and data lists? Or any other questions that are on anybody's mind? Remember, your question, all these people have submitted questions ahead of time on these various topics, and we're always happy during office hours every month to take whatever you've got, or if you come up with something on the fly, other people have the same question too, probably. Somebody does. We want to thank you all for coming today, and we will make available the recordings. We'll chop these up into little pieces on the individual topics, one on accessibility, one on filter blocks, and make those shareable. So you can give them to the people who want to make their websites better. All right. That'll close hours for today. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. We'll see you again next month.